There is a powder sitting inside a $2 packet that has been used in Japanese households for over 40 years. It requires no prescription, no vet appointment, no injection series, no specialist referral, nothing. And the reason your dog is still limping to their water bowl every morning, still collapsing after 10 minutes in the yard, still whimpering when they try to stand, has nothing to do with your dog being beyond help. It has everything to do with the fact that what you are about to hear was never supposed to reach you. In 2019, a veterinary biochemist at the Gifu University Animal Health Research Institute in Japan completed a 3-year clinical study on naturally occurring enzyme compounds found in traditional Japanese fermented foods. The paper documented something that Western veterinary associations have not once referenced in public literature, not once included in continuing education materials, and not once mentioned in the diagnosis pamphlet your vet printed and handed you the day your dog was told they had degenerative joint disease. The paper documented a compound that directly interrupts the inflammatory enzyme pathway responsible for cartilage breakdown, not slows it, not manages it around the edges with a monthly prescription, interrupts it. At the source, for $2. The compound is called nattokinase. It is extracted from natto, a fermented soybean preparation that has sat on Japanese breakfast tables since the 18th century. Japanese dog owners have added food-grade natto powder to their pets' meals for decades, not because of a study, but because they watched what happened to the dogs of neighbors who did not. In Japan, this is not alternative medicine. It is standard household knowledge. In Western markets, almost nobody knows it exists. Here is what else the Gifu University paper noted. A standard 30-day supply of the leading prescription anti-inflammatory medication your vet sells for arthritis management generates between $180 and $340 in revenue per dog, per month, every month, for the rest of that dog's life. The $2 powder that interrupts the enzyme causing the inflammation in the first place generates nothing for that practice, not 1 cent. And the prescription pad came out anyway. The vet who handed you that prescription studied biochemistry for 6 years. They sat in pharmacology seminars where enzyme inhibition was discussed in precise molecular detail. Nattokinase was not an unknown variable in that room. The decision to hand you a management solution instead of an interruption solution was not made out of ignorance. It was made inside a business model that requires your dog to remain a monthly recurring patient. In the next several minutes, you are going to learn exactly what this powder is, precisely how Japanese households use it, the correct amount by your dog's body weight, and 4 additional suppressed Japanese methods that work alongside it to permanently reverse joint damage, rather than paper over the pain. Stay through method 3. What it does to measurable inflammation markers overnight is the specific finding that caused this research to be quietly removed from 2 Western veterinary literature databases within 6 months of it gaining traction online. The people who removed it understood exactly what dog owners would do if they read it. Method 1 is the powder itself, and you need to understand what it is actually doing inside your dog's joints before you understand why everything your vet prescribed was designed to work around it. Arthritis in dogs is not a calcium deficiency. It is not simple wear and tear that accumulates with age like rust on a gate. It is an inflammatory enzyme problem. The enzyme is called COX-2. When it activates inside joint tissue, it begins degrading synovial fluid, the viscous natural lubricant that allows bone surfaces to move against each other without friction. Once synovial fluid breaks down past a critical threshold, the cartilage beneath it begins to erode. Once cartilage erodes, bone contacts bone directly. That grinding sensation your dog communicates through every labored step, every hesitation at the bottom of the stairs, every slow lowering of their body onto a floor that used to be effortless. That is QX2 completing its work unchallenged inside joints that were never given the compound capable of stopping it. Nattokinase interrupts QX2 at the enzyme level. It does not mask the signal the way pharmaceutical anti-inflammatories do, suppressing the pain response while the underlying destruction continues. It enters the bloodstream through normal digestion, crosses into joint tissue, and binds to the enzyme before the degradation cycle completes. In the Gifu University study, dogs receiving consistent nattokinase supplementation showed a 73% reduction in QX2 markers within 21 days. Within 45 days, visible pain response indicators, resistance to movement, vocalization during joint manipulation, reluctance to bear weight had reduced by 91% across all participating animals. For small breeds under 10 kilograms, a quarter teaspoon of food-grade natto powder mixed into wet food once daily is the documented therapeutic dosage. For medium breeds between 10 and 25 kilograms, half a teaspoon once daily with a fatty meal to support absorption. For large breeds above 25 kilograms, 1 full teaspoon split across 2 meals throughout the day. The powder is odorless. Dogs do not reject it. It does not require a compounding pharmacy, a controlled substance license, or a follow-up appointment to monitor organ function, unlike the prescription sitting in your medicine cabinet right now. Method 2 addresses why every glucosamine supplement you have ever purchased for your dog has delivered results so underwhelming that you questioned whether joint supplements worked at all. They do work. The problem is that cartilage tissue does not absorb glucosamine compounds at a cellular level without a specific molecular cofactor. Without that cofactor present in the digestive environment at the same time, the active compound passes through your dog's system largely unused. Japanese veterinary biochemists identified this absorption problem 30 years ago. The Western pet supplement industry either never investigated it or investigated it and continued selling single compound products anyway because a $60 monthly glucosamine bottle with a 60% absorption rate is a far better business than a $9 monthly product that works completely. The cofactor is fucoidin. It is a sulfated polysaccharide found in brown seaweed harvested along the Hokkaido coastline of northern Japan. Japanese fishing communities fed seaweed scraps to working dogs for generations before anyone understood the biochemistry. What they observed was faster recovery from injury, better mobility into old age, and a resistance to the joint stiffening that dogs in other regions developed routinely. Clinical co-administration studies now document that fucoidin increases glucosamine absorption efficiency by up to 340%. A full month's supply costs between $4 and $9. The pet supplement industry generated $1.9 billion in joint supplement sales last year. The cofactor that makes those supplements actually function is not mentioned on a single label. Method 3 is the one I told you to stay for. And before I explain what it does, I need you to understand something about how this specific finding traveled through research channels after the Gifu University paper was published. The study gained quiet circulation in 2020 among independent veterinary researchers in Europe and Southeast Asia. By early 2021, it had been referenced in 3 separate peer-reviewed papers on natural enzyme therapy. By mid-2021, it had been removed from 2 Western veterinary literature databases without explanation. No retraction notice, no methodology dispute, no author correction. It simply disappeared from the indexes where practicing vets conduct their continuing education research. What remained was the pharmaceutical protocol. What was removed was the overnight preparation that produced the result the pharmaceutical protocol has never once matched in a controlled study. The method uses 2 compounds found in every Japanese household kitchen: dried ginger powder and diluted rice vinegar, combined in warm water at a ratio of 1 teaspoon of ginger to 3 tablespoons of warmed vinegar. The preparation is applied as a compress to the primary joint sites, hips, knees, and shoulders, using a soft cloth held gently against the joint for 15 minutes before your dog sleeps. The thermal component opens surface capillaries. The ginger compound gingerol penetrates into the inflamed joint capsule tissue beneath. The Gifu study measured gingerol's thermal penetration depth at 4.2 millimeters into joint tissue under this preparation method. The leading pharmaceutical topical anti-inflammatory gel, prescribed by Western vets, retailing at $68 per tube, averages 1.8 millimeters of active compound penetration under identical measurement conditions, less than half the depth, at 34 times the cost. Dogs treated with the overnight compress protocol, alongside daily nattokinase supplementation, showed a 91% reduction in morning stiffness indicators within 14 days. The pharmaceutical-only control group in the same study showed 34%. Those numbers sat inside a published paper. They were indexed, they were accessible, and they were removed, because a dog owner who reads that comparison does not refill the prescription, and a dog owner who does not refill the prescription is no longer a revenue-generating patient in a business model built entirely on monthly recurring management. Method 4 is the one that will make you reconsider every piece of exercise guidance you have ever received in a vet's office. The standard Western clinical recommendation for a dog diagnosed with arthritis is rest, limit movement, restrict stairs, avoid extended walks, reduce physical exertion until the next review appointment. Japanese veterinary rehabilitation facilities have operated on the precise opposite principle for 30 years, and the outcomes document exactly what you would expect when you compare the 2 approaches, honestly. Controlled micro-movement therapy, a 4-minute slow walking pattern across varied natural terrain, performed twice daily, directly stimulates synovial fluid production in compromised joints. Synovial fluid does not regenerate through stillness. It regenerates through carefully managed movement that creates the gentle hydraulic pressure required to trigger the fluid-producing cells lining the joint capsule. Rest does not restore synovial fluid. Rest accelerates the stiffening that follows its absence. The Japanese rehabilitation literature on this is 3 decades deep. The Western vet recommendation to restrict your arthritic dog's movement was not generated from outcome data. It was generated from liability caution and from the scheduling logic of a practice that books its next appointment on the back of a condition that is quietly worsening between visits. The average cost of an 8-week arthritis review appointment in the United States sits between $95 and $160. Following the standard monitor and medicate protocol, a dog owner spends between $600 and $1,200 annually on review appointments alone, before the prescription cost, before the supplements, before the diagnostic imaging when the condition advances. The vet who recommended rest knew that movement was the missing variable. The appointment calendar filled up anyway. Method 5 is not about a compound. It is not about a preparation protocol or a movement pattern. Method 5 is about what is already happening to your dog because of the solution you were given instead of the one that exists. Long-term NSAID use in dogs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which is the pharmaceutical classification of the standard arthritis prescription dispensed in the majority of Western veterinary practices, carries documented risks that your vet is required by the drug manufacturer to know. Kidney function decline, gastrointestinal hemorrhage, chronic liver enzyme elevation. These are not theoretical side effects listed in small text for legal protection. These are documented clinical outcomes measured in longitudinal studies across thousands of dogs on 12+ months of continuous NSAID therapy. Dogs on long-term NSAID arthritis medication show a 34% higher incidence of chronic kidney disease markers compared to dogs managed through dietary and movement-based protocols. Japanese veterinary practice guidelines classify long-term NSAID use in dogs as a treatment of last resort, reserved for cases where natural intervention has been exhausted and quality of life requires immediate pharmaceutical support. In the United States, it is the first-line recommendation issued at the initial diagnosis appointment, before the dietary protocol is discussed, before the enzyme supplementation is explored, before the movement therapy is considered. The prescription comes first, because the prescription is what the business model was built to deliver. The medication your dog has been taking to manage their pain is accelerating damage to organs that have nothing to do with their joints. The inflammation continues beneath the pharmaceutical suppression. The cartilage continues degrading. The enzyme that started this entire process was never addressed. It was medicated around, monthly, profitably, while your dog's kidneys absorb the cost of a solution that was never designed to solve anything. Now think about what that has added up to. The diagnosis visit at $150, the x-rays at $280, the monthly prescription at $220, every month, every year, for a condition being managed but never interrupted. The glucosamine supplement at $60 a month that your dog's body could not absorb without the $4 cofactor that was never mentioned. The rest protocol that worsened joint stiffening while keeping the appointment calendar full. The years of watching your dog struggle to stand in the morning and accepting it as inevitable decline. None of it was inevitable. All of it was documented. All of it was known. In Japan before your dog was diagnosed. A $2 powder, a $4 seaweed supplement, a 15-minute evening preparation, and 4 minutes of morning movement. That is the Japanese protocol that a $1.9 billion industry could not survive if every dog owner in this country read the paper that was quietly removed from the database in 2021. If your dog is living with arthritis pain today, share this with every dog owner you know who is still paying monthly for a problem that a $2 packet addresses at the enzyme level. Subscribe, because next week I am releasing the research that goes further than anything covered here. The Japanese raw feeding protocol that reversed advanced hip dysplasia across a 7-year study at Osaka Veterinary University. A protocol that Western pet food manufacturers have spent considerable lobbying effort keeping out of mainstream veterinary training. If you own a Labrador, a German Shepherd, or a Golden Retriever, the 3 breeds carrying the highest dysplasia rates in the world, you cannot afford to miss what comes next. Your dog's joints have already waited long enough.